In this week's weekly news video, we're going to touch on some dodgy things happening with PWCC and Beckett and their new partnership, as well as some crappy things regarding the newly released basketball national treasures. Honestly, that crap is pretty disappointing to see such an expensive product. And then also we'll go back to some thoughts I've shared in the past on Panini and their overprinting, so stick around. So the first thing I want to touch on, like I said, is this relationship between PWCC and Beckett. Now, you would have seen a video that I released a couple of days ago. If you haven't seen it, please check it out, then come back to this, where I talk through this in more detail. So if you weren't aware, what this is a partnership between PWCC and Beckett that allows people like me or you that wants to sell a card, you get a card busted of a product, you send it into PWCC, you pay $50, they send it off to Beckett for you, it gets graded within 10 business days, it gets sent back to PWCC, and then they put it in their weekly auction. Now, this looks really good on face value because it's a pretty streamlined process. Other than submitting the card or sending it off to PWCC, you don't do anything. PWCC handle the grading, submission process, all that sort of stuff, right? However, it's also really good, I should say, because if you look at the 10-day turnaround that Beckett currently charge, you're looking at $150 to $250. So you're getting a really good deal potentially, right? However, the kicker comes with the fact that if you look at the fine detail, what PWCC explain is because this goes into their weekly auction, if it gets bid on and the buyer doesn't pay, it automatically will get relisted in the next week's auction. However, if it doesn't get bid on and the minimum bid is $10 on these PWCC weekly auctions, you forfeit the card to them and they take ownership. And what they do with it from then afterwards is unknown, but basically they take the cards off your hands. Now, some of you might be thinking, like I touched on in my previous video, that, yeah, why are you sending a card in to get graded and sold on their auction site if you don't think it's going to get $10? But things can happen, right? Some things can happen in the market that you might not be prepared for. Like a player might get injured, like I touched on in my video, something might happen that for whatever reason your card doesn't get bid on. But then because that happens, you've got no option to recall the card. Basically, PWCC take it, even if you have to still pay for the grading fee, which is pretty crazy in my opinion. Now, when I did my last video, that information wasn't 100% confirmed. I spoke about how Neo Cards and Comics spoke about how there was a blowout forum that was talking about this in detail regarding PWCC's partnership with CSG, because they do the same thing with CSG. But now I've had a couple more days to look into it, and yes, it is confirmed that if the card does not get bid on, PWCC take ownership of your card, which is really crap. And this could be for a multitude of reasons, right? Because if the starting bid, for whatever reason, yes, they all start at $10, but for whatever reason, let's say you send in like a $300 card, and that card just does not get bid on, okay? For whatever reason, maybe some people have 10 different cards sent in at the same time. Your card now belongs to PWCC. And that's obviously a gamble you have to take, but just be very mindful if you're going to use this service, right? Just be very mindful with the cards you're sending in. Like, be prepared to get burned and you'll come out okay. If you prepare for the worst, you should be fine, right? But just be very careful. And my thought process on this goes to similar things with grip submitters in the past, right? I'm not a huge fan of using grip submitters, and that's basically what this service is, because somebody else is handling your cards. You don't know if they're going to swap them out, especially if they're not serial numbered, right? So it's just very, very, I don't know. I think, like I said in my video, because of some of the issues PWCC have had in the past with shield bidding, some of all the other crap they've had to deal with, and the market has a sentiment about them, you'd almost have to assume the worst with this. So just be very careful if you are going to use this service, because the fact that mention of them taking it and forfeiting your card and they taking ownership is not very clearly mentioned, I should say, on their website, is very disingenuous. Yes, it is in their terms and conditions, it's in the fine print, but it's not there front and center. And something like that needs to be there front and center, because that's unacceptable that it's not black and white. So let me know your thoughts on that down in the comments below. Now, the next thing I want to touch on is the release of National Treasure. And what you can see here up on the screen is that you're getting these cards with cheap patches in there, right? Just crappy Christmas sweater patches that have no meaning to National Treasures. It just makes no sense why they're included. And as Lamim James called out, some of these patches were also used in hoops this year. So it's like, why are you using that kind of product in National Treasure? And the other thing with this is none of these patches are associated with the player. If you read the fine print on the back of these cards, it'll say not associated with any player, event, or game, right? So that's really disappointing. Like, how the heck is that in a $4,000 box of product? What the heck are you doing, Panini? I'll get my thoughts on that in a little bit, or in a short while, I should say. But it's just absolutely crazy. And it's not just them putting crappy patches in an expensive product, in their, most high-end product. National Treasures is the true RPA. So the fact that you're seeing this kind of crap go into RPAs is a joke. However, what you can also see, and I'll pop up on the screen now, is that they're also putting in patches with names on the patch, like the player's surname, for players that aren't even that player. It's incorrect jersey getting in the card. And it's happened a couple of times for this player. So, or for a couple of players, I should say, which is pretty ridiculous. Like, what's going on? And I've touched on this in the past, and that's going to be the key talking point for the back end of this video, is the fact that Panini are basically taking the piss. And I touched on this, when the Fanatics news first broke, and a couple more times since, and it looks like the general consensus within the hobby has caught on, and they're saying the same sort of things if you read the post, and that is that between now and when Panini lose their license, they are going to print everything to death. They're not going to give two shits about their quality control, because as we can see now with NT, people are still very happily buying their product. Okay, they're still very happily paying $4,000 for a box of cards that has patches in them that are not associated with any player, game, or event. They're just random, not even jersey cards, they're just random Christmas sweaters, or they've got the wrong player associated in that RPA. Like, how the heck are you getting that kind of stuff in a product that costs this much money? It is completely unacceptable, and they're going to keep doing it because from their perspective, they've got no hindrance on them. They're going to have no repercussions if they keep doing this, because they're going to lose their license. I think it's in 3 or 4 years. Who cares where the market is at then from their perspective, okay? Between now and then, people are still going to be buying up all their product because they're the top dog. Everyone's going to still be using them. So it's just like, they've got no... I don't think anybody's going to stop using them. And the fact that you're looking at, as Wax Museum Podcast said on one of his posts when he called out the pack sweaters, when the person busted that in the break that he took the screenshot from, they were super excited about how awesome the patch looked. And that's what you're going to get in this instance, right? You've got these breakers that are out there trying to take advantage of their customers, trying to get them to buy more product. And we've spoken about this in the past as well. Not all breakers do this, so please don't come at me. But they're talking the product up like, oh my God, this is so awesome. Keep buying more product from me, guys. You're going to love it. When in reality, it's a piece of shit. So what, I'm talking in circles, but you guys get where I'm sort of going, right? Like, it's just unacceptable that Panini keep doing this. And when's enough going to be enough? Like, nobody's ever going to speak up. I saw Retro Hoops did a video on this, a couple of days ago, speaking about it when he saw some of this shit that was happening within these RPAs from National Treasure. But nobody's going to stop doing it. I've been talking about it. The channel was actually, my 1 year anniversary for the channel was a couple of days ago, and I've been talking about this since almost day one. I've been thinking about this since 2013, but now it's even worse because they've literally got nothing to lose. They're going to lose their license. So what happens? Why do they care what the market's going to look like in 2-3 years time? They're going to print everything to death. Don't be surprised if you see even more product get released next year. I've spoken about the number of rookie cards that each player has now, the number of 1-on-1s in a product, the number of parallels. It's just utterly unacceptable. And they're going to keep pushing and pushing and pushing because people are keep buying and buying and buying. And what's going to happen is, not only are you going to have all these people caught out because they're buying all these cards that aren't really rare, aren't really worth anything, but at the same time, you've got people that unfortunately buying these boxes of products that they think are going to be valuable long term that aren't, because the products they contain are crap. The reason why NT was valuable 5 years ago was because they had game used jerseys in them and they had on-card autos. Don't be surprised if you also start seeing, I think there might be some NT cards that do have sticker autos, but don't be surprised in the next 2 to 3 years if you see Panini fill NT with sticker autos and keep the same price point, and people will still buy it because people are people, and people want the buzz, they want the hot card, right? It's just crazy, and everyone knows it's wrong, but everyone keeps buying it. And everyone just pretends you're oblivious to how bad it is when they need to sell the card. It's a really weird thing. So I'm really keen to get your thoughts on that down in the comments below. I know I've gone on a really big tangent now, and I hope you all stuck with me, but it's unacceptable, and it's something that's close to my heart about how much I hate, because I don't like these companies taking advantage of customers. And the unfortunate thing is, like I said, that nobody speaks up. And the people that do speak up, like myself and a few others, don't get enough traction to, make a change. And it's because people don't want to change, like I said. They're happy to buy the product because they want to make the coin from selling the card. It's just crazy. So like I said, don't be surprised if in a year's time or 2 years' time, every single card in NT is sticker auto. So it is what it is. This week's news video was a bit short in terms of the topics we talked about, but I hope you liked it. Please share your thoughts down in the comments below on anything we discussed. It's pretty disappointing, but hey, let's move on to the next thing, right? We are collectors at the end of the day, so let's wait for Panini to turn this to crap, and hopefully Fanatics come in and save the day. That's something I wouldn't have thought I would have said a couple of years ago, but it is what it is. Thanks for watching. Like I said, please give me your thoughts down in the comments below. As always, I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.